I think people equate volume to success, and you can get 100 inquiries in a day and they can all be horrible and not a good fit for you, not aligned for many different reasons. When you niche down, when you are honest, when you are transparent, there will be less. But then it's up to you as a salesperson, essentially, to showcase your value. That, your percentage of booking is going to be feel different because you're getting less inquiries. But if those inquiries are great inquiries and you nail it every single time, then it takes away the time of you going through hundreds of emails that don't pertain to you and are not going to hire you anyway.
Hey everybody, this is Eddie Babbage, founder, CEO of Timeline Genius, your host of the Wedding Industry Insider podcast here. I have Holly Gray with me today. Very excited to do this interview. Holly is the CEO and designer of Anything But Gray Events, which is a full-service wedding planning and design company that specializes in bold, colorful, and creatively offbeat celebrations across Southern California and destination locations. Holly is also the National Director of Membership Retention for WIPA, and she has 15 years of experience in our wedding industry. Holly, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Eddie, for inviting me.
Absolutely. This will be a pleasure. And we are going to get into the contours of your career. We're going to be lifting up some insights and lessons learned along the way from your numerous years of experience. But before we do all of that, Holly, would you mind just giving people, I know I already kind of gave a brief intro, but give people a little bit more of an idea of your background and how you got to be where you currently are?
Oh my goodness, my background. So, like a lot of wedding professionals, it's not straight. It's very curvy. It's a journey. I started out in live theater and television. I was a stage manager for live theater and television for a long time, and I loved that path. I'm someone that thinks with a production mindset. So it's different than a lot of other wedding planners, but I had found being in that industry for a long time, I wasn't surrounded by women in power positions. And I felt like as a woman myself, I wasn't going to get to the point that I wanted to be in my career if I stayed there. So I transitioned in the way of I went to culinary school, got my culinary degree, and really put together that events and hospitality and theater, there's all a lot of the same aspects there. And so when I started my business, it was about taking the things that I had learned and studied and really crafted over the years in terms of theater production, as well as hospitality and food service, and bring that into the events world and the wedding world that I wasn't currently seeing in the market. So it was a long way to get there, but it was a really good time.
Really, really cool. So I definitely am going to dig into this a little bit. Your background in production. Tell me a little bit more about how that has influenced the way that you work as a planner.
Oh, it's everything. To me, a wedding is a production. It's the same as a Broadway show. You have a cast, you have a team. There's a start date and there's an end date. You're opening and closing the same night, as I like to say, which is different than most productions. But there's an element of understanding front of the house and back of the house that a lot of wedding professionals maybe don't grasp in the same way as a theater professional would. And I try to merge those two things together. So it's a very immersive experience, right? Going to the theater, for most of us that grew up going to the theater, it's a magical place. It's our church. It's our community. It's something that fills your soul in a different way. And I'm trying to translate that into weddings and events and creating that experience, that feeling for your guests walking in to say, this wedding could not be anyone else's but this person and this person. It's the only time that this has ever existed. The lights are going up, the curtain's going up, and the show will come down at the end of the night. And it's a once in a lifetime experience that we offer.
That's really cool, Holly. So I live in New York City, and as you were talking, and I was kind of a late comer to the whole theater thing. I think when I was a kid, and I'm going to explore your experience in theater and stuff and the magic, because I can feel the passion.
Yeah.
But for me, it wasn't really until I was in my 20s. I remember I saw a production of Rent, and it was the second time I'd seen it. And that was, I feel weird saying it aloud, but literally I was like 20 years old, and that was the first time that I was in a theater production and just like, wow, this is incredible. But as you're
Mhm.
talking, like it really is interesting. And it's also, there's this connection too that like theater is so transient. Like you go
Mhm.
see a show and then sometimes it'll leave and
Mhm.
you'll never get to see that again. Like it's a once in a
Yeah.
lifetime thing that you got to experience in there. And a wedding, perhaps to an even greater degree, is this fleeting, precious, once in a lifetime thing for everybody there. Like, does that resonate with you? Like, or what other? Yeah,
100%. I'm so you're East Coast, I'm West Coast.
yeah,
I live in Los Angeles, and I was lucky enough to just be at a show at the Hollywood Bowl, a 3-night show with Cynthia Erivo and Adam Lambert in Jesus Christ Superstar. And I was just having a conversation yesterday with the friends that I went with to see that, and I said to them, I feel like I saw magic that will never happen again.
yeah,
I've seen so many theatrical performances in my life, but I
yeah,
sat in that seat and I tingled the whole
yeah,
time, uh,
yeah.
listening to these
You
performers.
want to like bottle it up, but
I
there's no
mean,
recording that will ever.
no,
It's not
no,
reproducible,
no,
and you know it. You're like, dang it.
no. It's like taking a picture of a sunset. It will
Yeah,
never be as beautiful
yeah,
in the
yeah,
photo as it was in
yeah,
real life. And you just
yeah,
have to take it in the moment and
yeah,
go,
yeah,
oh my gosh, I want this to wash all over me, because this
yeah,
feeling, you
yeah.
can't replicate it. You
No, you
cannot
can't.
replicate it. Yeah.
And is that really is that what you're going for when somebody attends one of your weddings?
Yes. I want them to feel like it's a theatrical experience. I want it to feel like an elevated version of reality, whatever that means. You're stepping
Yeah,
into something that feels very familiar, because most of us have attended weddings in our life. They're a
right,
celebration of love and joy and family and
right,
coming together,
right.
chosen family, sometimes, whatever that means to you. But it's the next step up. It's that next feeling that might never be able to be captured except within your heart. And as cheesy as that sounds, that's truly how I feel about it.
I love that. And you know what? Some of the best stuff is cheesy, dang it. And but
I
it's
love
very
cheese.
sincere, but it's like, I mean, it is, right? Like there are just certain
Yeah.
themes that are just like really beautiful. Like how did you, and we talked a little, I think you have the wedding industry in the family. Like tell me a little bit about how this sort of, you got captivated with theater and your early exposure also to the wedding industry.
Uh, well, in terms of theater, I grew up in a theatrical family. A lot of my family members are performers in some sense. And it just was always around us. I went to my first show, Phantom of the Opera, at the Pantages Theater in Hollywood, and
Wow.
I remember someone in my family told me before, "Watch out, Holly, because the chandelier falls in the show." That's
Right,
all they said to me. Now,
right.
unbeknownst to me, if you don't know Los Angeles, the Pantages Theater has a ginormous chandelier hanging from the ceiling, ginormous.
Oh, this
And
is
we
so
were seated right directly under that. So the
cool.
whole show, as a 12-year-old, it was my birthday too. I was looking up going, oh my God, the chandelier is going to fall and I'm going to die tonight.
Yeah.
Little did I know there is a chandelier in the show on stage.
Right,
It's
right,
tiny
right.
and it falls and whatever.
Oh,
But
that's amazing. That's
it
hilarious.
almost, it raised that kind of excitement for me, and the kind of urge to keep going with theater to see what's going to happen.
Yeah,
And so for me, having a mom that was a wedding planner, of course,
yeah,
her weddings were beautiful, but a lot more traditional and tame.
yeah,
I I avoided weddings as a teenager because I knew it was what my mom had done, and also I
right.
was dragged to help on Saturdays for weddings for as long as I can remember, fold napkins or put together almond bundles, or move tables and chairs, that kind of thing. So I always kind of thought of weddings as it was a certain kind of box. You checked the certain kind of wedding boxes, and I wasn't into that at all. And so the ability now to be able to merge kind of my theatrical mind and spirituality, if you will, with what weddings can be, if you want them to be, that is really fun. Is really, really
I love
fun.
that. And your brand, like you're just exuding the brand. And I've said before, so I've been doing this for, gosh, I've lost track of time, 5 years maybe at this
Wait,
point.
you have lost track of time? Isn't it on your timeline?
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, I wish. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I mean, we've been doing this like just for years at this point, and I feel like one of the most important recurring themes is this notion of there's only one you, only has been, only ever will be one
Yeah.
you. Bring that unique, authentic
Mm-hmm.
version of yourself into your work. And I see that with you. Like immediately, I'm like, okay, haven't talked to anybody else despite all the interactions I've had in our industry over the years, like this person. Tell me a little bit more about, and you used a really interesting word too, spirituality. I will
Mm-hmm.
circle back to that. Tell me a little bit more about how your unique brand evolved.
Mm. So I think something that a lot of wedding professionals, especially in like the 3 to 5 year window of
Mm-hmm,
being in business, miss the mark on is they
mm-hmm,
try to please everybody.
mm-hmm.
You go in, making a business, creating a business that is trying to appeal to everyone. And we all know that adage of like, you're never going to please everyone. It's
That's
it's
right.
one of those things in life you can never achieve.
Right.
And so, and I did the same thing. I made that mistake. I started my business. My business was called Events by Holly Gray, because what else are you going to name your business when you first start
Sure.
off, right?
Right. Yeah.
But after yourself. And I tried to make everybody happy. I tried to please every client that wanted to do something that didn't really fit with where my brand was going, what I wanted to do. And I was really unhappy. And what I was creating ultimately, I wasn't proud of. Not that it wasn't beautiful, not that these weddings did not
Right.
go off really well, but I looked back on my portfolio and I go, kind of looks like everybody else. And that didn't make me proud of what I was creating. And I feel like we have a unique privilege in our industry that we create. That's something that not every industry does. And we have the ability to create something that we can walk away from and go, I'm glad that's in the world because of what I was able to do, what I was able to create for this couple with this team. It exists because I made it exist, which is exciting. Um, I lost my train of thought, Eddie. I was so
When
passionate
did you
in
make
that
that
moment.
shift, Holly?
Oh,
If it
I
comes
made
back
that
to you, let me
change.
know. But when, yeah, when
Yeah.
in your 15
Yeah.
year career did you make that shift?
So that was 2016 that I made that shift, because I had just been feeling for about a year like I was doing the same thing over and over again, and it wasn't exciting to me. I wasn't captivated by it. It just was stalling out. I felt like my car was running and it was fine, but I don't really like fine. Fine is not a word I enjoy. And I thought, I have to really niche down in what I do well and who I am, and stop trying to kind of make everything milquetoast to please everybody else. And I've always been a really colorful person. I've always been theatrical. I've always kind of been larger than life in that way. And I was dulling myself down to appeal to other people because I didn't want to be labeled too much, over the top. And when I leaned into all that, when I rebranded in 2016 as Anything But Gray Events, it was super bold, super colorful. Um, I was showcasing LGBTQ plus clients on the top of my page, as opposed to hidden on the bottom, like a lot of wedding professionals. And then came kind of falling into more of that niche of being a wedding planner that really is welcoming of all clients and all love, and showcasing that, not hiding it. And so it all just kind of, it was like a snowball that just kept falling down the mountain hill. And I was excited about it. I was excited about what I was creating. Everything was new. Everything was different. Couples were coming to me with ideas that were outlandishly wonderful. And I'm like, how are we going to take this idea and make it into reality? That's really my sweet spot. That's where I love to thrive and create, is here's a wackadoo idea. Let's translate it into reality and how we can make it functional and logistically sound, and put it together and showcase it at your wedding. That is, that fills me up. That
I
that is
love
spirituality right there for me.
I am coming back to that too. And I gotta ask, was it scary like when you
Terrifying. Are you
yeah,
kidding? Scary? No, terrifying. You really think that you're standing on the side of a mountain that has been a steady platform for you, and you are going to fall off. And you have no idea if the parachute is going to open, if you're going to fall flat on your face on the cow that's on the ground below you. I mean, it's such a risk. And so many of us don't want to take that risk because risks are scary. But if you never take the risk, you never know. And I don't think
yeah,
failing is a bad thing. So many people kind of put failure into this category of um, they're shamed by it, or they feel like they should have made a different choice. I have learned from every failure in my life, and I'm very proud of that.
I love that, Holly. It's funny. I have a dear friend of mine that he got a new job and he's getting ready to start. This is a little random, but I feel like it ties back to this
I like
core
random.
this core principle that you're talking about. And I could hear that he just had this anxiety. He was just kind of scared. And I told him, and it really does hit home, that it's like anytime we're really growing and stepping into like a new and better version of ourselves, a new and better version of our life, we have to almost inherently step into the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
If we're just going to stay in our comfort zone where things aren't scary and
Mm-hmm.
where our mind and habits will naturally keep us, unless we kind of wake up and jump boldly into some new position, once you leave that comfort zone, the comfort goes and there's fear, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can totally be, in fact, sometimes it's the hallmark. I mean, I'm not telling anybody to go stand in front of a lion's head, and be scared that way. But like sometimes, like if there's not a little bit of a fear, then you might not be doing something big enough and bold enough.
Hmm. I'm going to bring back this to theater because you sparked something in me. I had a director once that talked about stage fright, and that stage fright is, you want stage fright. Stage fright is essential for good performance,
Mm,
because if you are standing in the wings waiting to go on for your cue and you don't feel that kind of butterfly bubble in your
yeah,
stomach of fear,
yeah,
then it means you're complacent. Then it means you've done this before and you shouldn't be doing it. You should always have that surge of fear, anxiety, pressure, whatever you want to call it, because it actually pushes you forward. That's the thing, that when you're in the wings waiting for your cue, pushes your feet forward and projects your body out onto the stage.
very cool. So I kept saying I would come back to this. Like you mentioned the word spirituality, and not to dwell on this, and it may have been more of a casual thing than anything really deep or intentional. But I gotta ask, like, yeah, what does spirituality mean to you, and kind of how, if and how it's actually played itself out in the shaping of your career and company?
Mm. Oh, we're getting so existential. I like this. I mean, I'm not a religious person now, but I grew up a religious person in a religious family, going to church every week, during doing choir, being an acolyte, like all that, all that. I'm not that now, but what I've taken from it is spirituality, in whatever form it takes for you, is passion. It's something that lights you up. It encourages you to move forward in a positive way, to do unto others as you would want done for you, to
Yeah.
treat people well. And for me, ultimately, like, my spirituality is community. I am my best self when I am around people that are kind and wonderful and lift each other up. I'm not a competition person. The only person I've ever competed against is myself,
Yeah.
to do better next time for me and others because of what I do. And when you're in a situation, and this is why I'm so passionate about networking and community, and my involvement in WIPA, is uh, being in a group of people that understand each other, that are kind to each other and lift each other up, is a gift that cannot be replicated in any other way. And for me, that fills me with that passion, that spirituality, whatever word you want to call it, that compels you to be the best you can be.
How has your network affected in concrete ways
Mm,
your business and your career?
mm. So let's go back to 2020, when the world shut down, right?
Crazy.
And I mean, in general, most of us are solopreneurs, right? We're working alone. We're working in an office alone, in our house alone. Maybe there's a dog or cat at your feet, but most of the time you feel pretty isolated. And add on the fact that then the world shut down, and those of us that were solopreneurs anyway felt so incredibly alone. I would have been so lost if I didn't have a community of people that I could reach out to day or night, um, talk to, learn from, just connect with. There's nobody else that understands the loneliness, the fears, the tribulations, the trials of this industry like other people in this industry. I'm
Yeah.
always amazed when I speak to up and coming wedding planners specifically who talk about they're trying to do everything on their own, and they're worried that if they are friends with other wedding planners, especially in their own market, that it's going to be their competition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to myself, gosh, you're missing the mark, because those are the people that you want to team up with. Those are the people that you want to learn and grow from, because they're the people that are going to refer you if you're already booked.
Right.
They're going to be advocates if you're in the right circle of people. They're going to be people that are saying nice things about you when you're not in the room. And if you're trying to go it alone, I go, more power to you, but find a community. Find a networking group or community that you feel like really speaks to who you are and what you're trying to create, and lean in. Don't be afraid to lean in.
I love that. And can you talk specifically about WIPA for
Yeah.
those that may not know about the organization or may not know what the local chapter is? Like, can you just tell people a little bit
Yes.
more about it?
So WIPA, WIPA, Wedding Industry Professionals Association. We are a nationwide organization. We have 24 chapters across 18 states right now and over 3,000 members. So that means if you are a member of WIPA, you are licensed and insured event professional in any category. And suddenly you've built yourself a community. You're surrounded by other people who, like you, have established businesses. We typically see members that are in the 5 to 10 plus year range of their businesses. So you are learning, you're growing. Education is a huge pillar for us. So for any chapter, we have 4 educational events per year, as well as online education. So we've got a learning library where you could sit, if you're the kind of person that likes to sit and take in so much information, you could sit for hours and be online listening to educators from across the nation speaking about every subject you can think about in the wedding industry. It's incredible. On top of the fact that, you are meeting people in person. I think the internet is a wonderful thing. I think Zooms are great and whatnot, but there's nothing that can compare to being in a room full of other people having meaningful, real conversations, taking away the fluff, that community building that really highlights it. And for me, WIPA is where it's at. And that's why I have poured so much time and dedication into being a volunteer leader now, first for 3 years on the board for SoCal, and then now 2 years on the national board, heading into my 3rd year. It's something that I really believe in.
Very, very cool. Yeah, the power of network. And you're so right. I mean, it's so, and there is this tension, right? Like, um, a person could look, especially at the other wedding planners in their market. I mean, not as much like if you're a planner, you probably don't need to feel threatened by other types of, service providers, or you may not naturally, if anything, you're like, okay, there's a source for referrals.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get this idea that somebody could naturally have a fear of like, wait a minute, if I'm friends with this person, maybe they're learning things about my business or whatever, and we're ultimately competing for the same,
Mm-hmm.
clients. Can you tell me a little bit more about your mindset in terms of cooperation over competition?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that you feel more secure,
Mm-hmm.
less fearful, or maybe you do feel a little sense of fear or threatened by other wedding planners? I don't know. How do you manage all of that? Because from what I'm gathering, you have no reservations about ultimately being out there, building friendships and relationships with other wedding planners in your market.
Yeah, I'm a pretty confident person, and I think when uh, I've niched down so much that I know what I really do well. I can look at an inquiry and know this is not for me, but I know this is really good for my friend who's a planner. I'm going to refer them. I think you have to kind of change your mindset, and that comes with age and experience, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, I have been in situations over the years with friends that were also planners, and they didn't have the best of intentions. And I think that's what
Right.
it comes down to, is you have to find the right people that you can really trust,
Right.
and you know that you're doing what you do really well, they do what they do really well. If you can support them, wonderful. They will support you, wonderful. But it's not this kind of idea of I'm going to get information from you to use for my
Right.
own
Right.
good. It's how do we make it all work together for each one of us? Because if you're doing what you do really well, there's no you are your special sauce, like you said in the beginning. There's no one that can replicate. Someone can take my recipe for a wedding, but it's not going to be the same product because I didn't do it. I wasn't there. I'm the special sauce.
I love that. It's funny, Holly, how many things are coming back to ultimately the notion of expressing your unique self, but
Mhm.
also the bold and strategic step of niching down, as you're terming it.
Mhm.
Like, that is such a powerful message. And it's something that I feel like plenty of people listening right now could benefit from, like, applying. I know
Mhm.
that I personally, at multiple points in my career, have
Mhm.
stepped in the bear trap of trying to be all things to all people. There's such a natural temptation because you don't want to close off. You're like, I want as much revenue and as many clients
Mhm.
and all the things. But when you niche down, you're like, man, I'm only talking to a smaller set of people. But now you're really going to be speaking to those people in a compelling way and
Mhm.
having the courage to say, I'm not speaking directly to these people, which isn't to say you'll still attract some people that aren't necessarily your perfect, ideal client profile.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's funny how even the networking gets affected because once you've niched down, you're like, I don't need to be threatened by this person
Mhm.
because I have a very clear and specific lane that I operate in.
Exactly.
Really interesting.
Exactly.
Um, what are some of the things, Holly? I mean, it's no small feat to have your 15 years of experience. We all know that, in a lot of cases, companies come and go in the blink of an eye. So to
Mhm.
have that longevity and that enduring presence is not something to take lightly. What are some of the things as you kind of look back on your career and the history of building your company? What's one thing that you feel like you did exceptionally well that helped you get where you currently are?
Hmm. Something that I think I've done exceptionally well and have learned over the years is to put yourself out there in a way that is comfortable to you, um, but sharing. I have found that when I talk more about theater on my social media, when I show pictures of myself hiking with my dogs, when I kind of express who I am as a person, it has attracted like minded clientele, people that relate. I posted the other day when I was heading to the Hollywood Bowl, and one of my former brides DM'd me back. She's like, Holly, I'm here too. Let's meet up. It's one of those things when you put yourself out there, you attract what you are looking for. But for so many of us and for so long, I think we like to wall off like our personal lives and our professional lives. And I think there is a comfortable space that all of us can find of sharing enough that makes us human, makes our clients understand that we are a real person, especially now in a world where we deal with so much AI, everything's automated. There is something to be said with being able to capture people as a person, just as like plain, I am a person, here is what I am, here's how you can relate to me. And I think over the years I've really grown in finding places where I can showcase who I am. I'm not putting myself in risk or danger or whatnot, but I'm kind of being vulnerable. I don't think vulnerability is a bad thing, and too often, especially as entrepreneurs, we want to be strong and put together and perfect all the time, and perfect only goes so far. Being human, being real, being vulnerable. Sometimes a little bit of trauma dumping is okay.
As a wedding planner, you know how important it is to create detailed wedding day timelines for your events. But creating your timelines can be a tedious and time-consuming job. Until now. Because Timeline Genius lets you create beautiful, detailed wedding day timelines with ease. And it keeps everything you need on the wedding day in one central place. Here's how it works. First, Timeline Genius saves all your clients, vendors, and venues in your Rolodex, so you don't lose time looking for their information. And when you're ready to create a new timeline, you simply enter the key information for your wedding. Click a button, and voila! Timeline Genius magically gives you a customized timeline for your event, where all the details are laid out and the times are calculated for you. From there, you can easily edit your timeline by adding or deleting items, inserting images, changing font styles, and customizing everything to your liking. You can also instantly shift the times for as many items as you want. And when it comes to your clients and vendors, Timeline Genius lets you give them the highest level of service. You can send them tailored timelines showing only the items they're involved in. And you can collaborate by inviting them to a mobile-friendly, web-based version of the timeline. You can even set text message reminders to automatically go out on the wedding day. And once you've completed your perfect timeline, you can download it or email it out as a beautifully styled PDF. And that's Timeline Genius, a smart software that will help take your wedding planning to the next level. Start your free trial today.
You know, it's funny, Holly. I at this age, I wouldn't have had the appreciation for what you're saying 20 years ago as I have today. There's I really have come to believe that sometimes some of the things that we are naturally inclined to hide, and I'm not always the best at just putting the full me out there. I'm by nature a pretty reserved, composed, private. I mean, I love people for sure, gregarious, but also like I'm not as just like constantly open. But I do feel like at this point in life, I think some of these things that we, again, it comes down to stepping outside of our comfort zone. Some of these things that it's a little uncomfortable to reveal and show to the world because we're like, is somebody gonna not like me if they see this real part of me? And then they're really not liking the real me. Like whatever it is, like some of that stuff is where some of our greatest dormant power lies. Have you heard of David Goggins by chance?
Yes.
So, I mean, and he tends to our point, he tends to be really polarizing.
Yeah.
I happen to be in the camp of like that man. I mean, we all have our flaws. People are complex. I'm not saying he's perfect, but so incredibly inspiring. So he writes this book, Can't Hurt Me. And he tells the story. It starts, he goes to his childhood where he was abused. And it's one thing if you're reading the book, you're just thinking about it like, I mean, okay, I've never met David in my life. Okay, he's getting here and he's talking about these inner memories and feelings of being abused by his father. And then at some point he calls it out and you really think about it. You're like, he's like, there was a time in my life where I wouldn't tell anybody this stuff.
Yeah.
I was deeply ashamed of the fact that I was abused. And then you stop and you start to think, wait a minute. He put this in a book for millions and millions and millions of people to see.
Yep.
But think of the power of being like, this is me. Like and he's commented on that. It just makes me think about what you're saying. When we do lean into vulnerability and we do bring our true selves into what we're doing, we unleash this sort of power. Like, does that resonate with you? Like,
I mean, I'll give you a personal, I'll be vulnerable and I'll give you an example. So I went through a divorce, pretty messy divorce in 2015. So I was in the wedding industry already. And initially there was such a personal stigma that I put on myself of, oh my gosh, you're a wedding planner that's divorced. You have failed. You have failed not only in your personal life, but somehow I made myself think that I had failed in my professional life too. Because in my mind, I had to be this shiny married wedding planner in order to be quote unquote successful or kind of fitting into the mold. And what I found after being very quiet about it for many years and just shame, shame is a real thing that we all carry in different ways. Every time I said it out loud, there was another woman or 10 standing next to me in a room that are like, oh girl, let's talk about it. Let's get a glass of wine and talk about it. And it became this kind of powerful, I don't want to say tool, but it was like a stepping stone to open me up into speaking with different people, into relating to different people in a different way. And a couple weeks ago, I went to go visit a WIPA chapter, and I was doing some venue tours, and I met with a venue manager that I had met in another situation while I was in LA, where she came to LA. And she just seemed different from the last time I saw her. And I was like, what's going on? Talk to me. And she goes, well, I'm really embarrassed, but I'm going through a divorce. We spent the next 2 hours over lunch not talking about the venue, but talking about divorce and how it actually can be empowering. And she left that meeting with me. She threw her arms around me and hugged me and started to cry. And she's like, I just haven't been able to talk to anyone about it because I've been so ashamed. And I'm like, I'm giving you permission right now. Don't be ashamed. and be the woman that for some other woman that's going through it, you can be that safe space that you can have a conversation and be vulnerable. Vulnerability can be this empowering thing that helps others without you even knowing you're helping someone else.
I love that. That is really beautiful. Yeah, as you're talking, it's just like, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying. There was something you said, and you were like, yeah, it may sound trite or sappy, but like sometimes the most beautiful and profound and important things do sound that way because they get talked about. It's like
Mm-hmm.
John Wooden said, there are no new fundamentals. He's like, when we practice, we do that. Like, it's still the fundamentals. And, you know, we hear people talk about, like, as long as you're putting a fake version of yourself out there, then even if people like that, it's not the real you. You're not.
And
But
how
yeah.
exhausting is that? How
Yeah.
exhausting is it to every day, in theory, put on a mask of someone else that's not you in order to assume that it's going to please other people that really don't care about you if they like the person that you really are not? That
Yeah.
is exhausting.
Yeah. And by the way, none of these people are actually even going to be at your funeral, and they're probably
No.
not thinking about you half as much as you think they
No,
are.
those
They
people
have
don't
their
care
own
about
lives that they think about.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. They don't pay your bills. They're not showing up for you. No. Why do you care?
I'll be honest. I feel like that's something I've gotten better at over the course. Like, I think I'm very naturally like highly attuned to what other people are thinking. And I want everybody to be cool and to be having the best life they can and to just see me in a positive, like that's my natural sort of orientation. But you really do realize, I think just over time, that there's real power in caring less about what other people think, not caring less about other people. Like, it's not about loving people less. It's not about being more selfish, you know, but rather being driven by like what you in your heart think is right.
Mm-hmm.
And if other people don't, as long as you're coming from like the best version and most loving version of yourself, then like the hell with what other people think. Like, you got to do your life, you know, like you only get one.
It's like those masochists that look at the comments on social media and I'm like, you're not helping yourself. And those people care about the people that care about you and treat your circle well. I am all about bending over backwards for everybody in my life that I love and adore, and everybody else, I'm so sorry. It's how it goes. And I am a recovering people pleaser, have been my whole life. And it's definitely something that I have to work at, because when you start doing a disservice to yourself in order to please other people, you really have to reevaluate that.
Yeah, and it doesn't affect, you know who speaks very openly about this is Oprah. I love me some Oprah.
I mean, who doesn't love Oprah?
Yeah, right. Yeah. But she's like, when I was younger, she's like, I had the disease to please, you know, like, and she talks about very openly how she willed herself into like actively overcoming that. But like, I think we all know when we hear that, like, how empowering it would be if we could just turn down the level of preoccupation with what other people think. Like, how do you know, I mean, you're acknowledging like this is something that you've dealt with, like wanting to please others. How have you managed to kind of turn the volume of that down in your life?
Ooh, well, I just finished the book by Mel Robbins, The Let Them Theory, which was very impactful to me as a people pleaser, or former people pleaser. Because I think in trying to people please, there's a lot of elements of control or wanting to control. Right. Because if we think that we have control, then we feel kind of this false sense of confidence. If I can control something, then everything's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I think, again, with experience and age, you learn most everything in our life is out of our control. There's a very limited, finite list of things in our life that we can control. And typically they have most everything to do with us and not with others. Yeah. You can't control others as much as you would love to try. You can't control others. So you're fighting this battle with yourself of trying to please everyone and failing yourself to try to control others, when ultimately that is something that can never be achieved. So why are you fighting so hard to do it?
Yeah. Now that is a really interesting. Is that book is a good read? I
Oh,
actually have seen it on. It's a good read.
it's a great read because, and I'm a fan of the Mel Robbins podcast too, but it's spoken very honestly, and I
Yeah,
think as women too, we have another level of people pleasing that she
I
speaks to
agree.
in the book a lot.
Yeah,
That just when you feel the need to shake it off, and it's like you're a lizard that just removed an old layer of skin, because suddenly everything feels um, much more flexible and easy to do because you're not doing it for other people.
yeah. I was just kind of piggybacking on that to say I feel like there's a way in which women in our society are conditioned a little bit more to be people pleasers,
Yeah.
whereas for men, oftentimes, like, it's almost kind of encouraged and you're
Hmm.
pedestalized if you're like the assertive, aggressive, like,
Hmm.
I know the way I'm doing. Whereas women, that can
No,
be
it's the
labeled in
opposite.
a negative way if you do that,
It's the opposite. When you are a strong, confident,
Yeah.
powerful woman, you are labeled a bitch. I don't
Yeah.
know if I can say that on your podcast. It
No,
is,
you
and
can.
I'm so
You can
sorry.
say whatever you
No,
want.
I'm
No,
not
listen,
sorry. I'm not sorry. I take that back. Um,
that's right.
and there's this weird fine line that I try to toe for myself of I I want to be strong, I want to be assertive, I want to be told that I can do everything because I know I can do everything.
Mhm.
And so many times, I mean, I've had men at events come up to me to say like, who can I talk to? Like, where's the guy in charge? And I go, hi, I'm the guy in charge. That would be me, sir.
Are you
But
serious,
oh
Holly? Like
God,
that,
oh my God,
that
so
happens?
many times over the years, so many times.
Yeah, I
And
haven't heard that before. That's
oh
crazy.
yeah, oh yeah, and or I'll say something like, yeah, I'm the one that got you hired.
Wow.
And but because I'm a woman, if you say something like that, then you're a bitch.
Right.
And I'm
Which
going,
is so funny because they're
there's
the
no
aggressor.
man that would be called
Yeah.
that, because
Yeah.
he answered a question directly or
Yeah. No,
calmly
it's
or
true. Yeah.
rationally. I'm not
Yeah.
over the top. I'm not. A man recently called me emotional when I was describing a situation. I've been dealing with a stalker. That's a fun other story, but I've been dealing with a stalker at a public place that I go to, and I reported this man,
Okay.
and the manager looked at me and said, "Miss, you don't need to be emotional." And I was reciting what had happened like this. The man followed me to the parking lot, and this has been going on for a year and a half. And I looked at him and I said, "Sir, there is not an emotional bone in my body right now. Like,
Right. Yeah.
how dare
But
you?"
I do have a stalker.
But I do have a stalker who just followed me to the parking lot, and you're telling me I'm emotional.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. It's a,
Yeah.
it's a different level of things that we have to combat as a woman, but I don't think that's any reason to stop combating it. I just work harder. Pedal to the metal.
I love it.
I'll see you in my dust. Bye.
Holly, we talked about um, things that you've done exceptionally well. Can you tell me about a pothole that you stepped in?
Oh,
Since we're on the topic of being vulnerable here, because I'm just like you. I really don't even think that failure is a thing as long as we're trying our best. I tell this to my kids, like, if you tried your best, there's only outcomes, and maybe you didn't get the outcome that you were seeking, but
mhm.
that just means there's something to learn. And oftentimes when we don't get the outcome we were seeking, it's just a blessing in disguise that puts us on a
Mhm.
new and better path. But all of that aside, over the history of your career, tell me about a big mistake that you made that you learned something really valuable from.
Hmm. I think tying back into so much of what we've talked to is I've been in leadership roles for 11 out of my 15 years in business.
Mm-hmm.
So that means I've put myself out there pretty far
Mm-hmm.
early on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I realized at that point how much hate there is out there. How many people, unfortunately, there are more people that want to see you fail than want to see you succeed. There are more people that want to see you fail than want to see you succeed. And I say it twice because I think it needs to sink in. And not because it's a scary fact, but because it's the reality of what it is. And when you put yourself out there, there's going to be haters. And I let the haters for a long time break me slowly. People that are either jealous of your success or don't think you should have it or just want to be mean. There's a lot of mean people in the world. And I listened for a long time, and it screwed me up. It screwed me up mentally, and I had to get back to a place where I reminded myself, like, who you are, what your values are. Is what you're doing right now aligned with your mission in life? And if it is, then there will always be haters, and let the haters talk. Let the haters do what they're going to do. Those people that know you, that have experienced working with you, being a friend to you, they know the real you. Don't let the negativity ruin your positivity.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, Holly. I asked a question that was almost seemingly the opposite of like, what have you done well? But the roads converge.
Yeah.
Because the root of what you do well, like leaning into your authenticity and all of that, seems to have grown out of the mistake of going down the path and listening too much to, was it coming in? And by the way, there's a great chat by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's a really interesting guy. Politics and stuff aside and all of that. And again, you know, he's had his public mishaps. But
he's made his life. He's created something out of very little.
It's really amazing. Like, he comes from Austria, becomes like the most celebrated bodybuilder, then defies all expectations as a movie star. I grew up in the 80s. He's like, you have to understand, when I said I wanted to get into acting, everybody said, that's not a thing, dude. They were like, look at the movies. You see Pacino and Hoffman, you know, small guys, like, you're completely unlike any other movie star that's ever lived. And you have a thick German accent. Like, that's not a thing. And all of that is to say, one of his like 5 sort of principles for like living life is like, ignore the naysayers. And I just thought of that as you were talking. Like, you can't let other people's negative chatter slow you down. It comes back to what we're talking about, being driven by what's inside. How did the negativity come to you? Social media, direct interactions? Like, where was it coming from?
It was direct interactions from a group of people that just didn't think that I was good enough to be where I was.
Yeah.
And found ways to try to ruin things for you. It's amazing to me that there are people in this world that they spend so much of their time, because we're at a limited time schedule, right? There is an expiration stamp on all of our butts right now.
We don't even know what it is, but it's there.
We don't know what it is, but we are on a limited time schedule. And the fact that there are many people in this world that spend so much of their time cutting down other people, so much of their limited time trying to hurt other people. For what purpose? I'm not sure. Maybe it's to make themselves better, but I truly believe that people that hurt other people are hurt themselves. And I try to remember that.
Hurt people.
Exactly. On my worst day, when I feel like, God, why? And I go, there has to be something in that person's life that honestly they need a hug or to fill, or, and that's not to belittle them in any way, but that's to find a way of understanding somebody else's journey, and that we're all on this journey. We all come from places of trauma in different ways. And sometimes you just have to take it, because it will make somebody else's journey a little bit easier in that moment. But it doesn't mean it should ruin you.
I heard a quote once, Holly, that it was like in my 20s, but it said, the people that are the hardest to love need it the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like that's right. And ultimately this energy and, you know, the communication that's coming at you, it kind of goes back to what you're thinking. We think we can control everything, but when you really think about it, it's not about you. It's about them.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, I can use myself. If you catch me on the wrong day and just like, who knows, like something terrible, maybe I lost a loved one or whatever. Like,
you don't know what someone's day is like ever.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on in that person's life, but we naturally, psychologically just make it self-referential, and we don't think about like, oh, actually this person had whatever crazy thing happen that day,
Yeah.
or has like
Yeah.
whatever trauma happening in their lives right
Mhm.
then that's kind of coming out in their interaction with you.
Yeah. There's a lot of projection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know it's crazy how quickly this time has flown by. There's a question, Holly, that I ask of, and I feel like this might kind of open I want to give a little time in your case, because I feel like this might open a whole new little tributary of conversation. But I always ask people, if you could give one piece of advice based on everything that you've learned and experienced professionally and personally, if you could give one piece of advice to everybody listening that would help them as much as possible build a successful business, what piece of advice would you give?
Know your value, charge your worth, and stop apologizing for not pleasing everyone.
I love that. And it does tie together everything we're talking about. I want to, and I knew this would happen, I want to drill just a little bit into charging what you're worth, because we didn't necessarily talk about that. And I feel like pricing, just from a tactical business standpoint, can drive so many other facets of your company's success or lack of success. Tell me a little bit more about charging what you're worth and why that's such an important point for you.
Charging what you're worth, and knowing your value, knowing what you bring to the table, how it's different than other people. And it's a two-part kind of explanation. One is you need to know your hard costs. You need to know how much it costs you to run a business, to employ people, to have all the systems that you pay for, to keep your internet and your phone going. All of these things are typically not factored initially when people are starting a business. They don't think about the hard costs that even if you have 0 clients at the time, you still have to pay for all those hard costs. Can you cover that with what you're doing? And so often I talk to planners who are swayed by things, and that's why they either offer discounts that they should, or undervalue themselves. Again, also a trait that a lot of women have is undervaluing themselves, and that's a whole other discussion for another day. But I hear planners say like, oh, I just really wanted to work at that venue, so I quoted them $3,000 less because I really wanted that thing. And I'm like, does that venue make any of your work less valuable? Like, you just kicked yourself in the foot. Yes, you wanted that, and you might have gotten that even if you charged your worth and knowing your worth. But right now you're putting yourself at a deficit for something that might or might not value you in the long run anyway. And I think it's so interesting that the wedding industry has become kind of like a spice market in some way, where people think that there's kind of this negotiation of, oh, I can, a planner or any category really can quote a price and I can negotiate them down because that's what you're supposed to do. I'm like, do you walk into Bloomingdale's and right. go and say like, I really like this cashmere sweater, but I'd like it for 50% less than what it is? They would look at you and go, I'm sorry, what? That's not how this works. And I feel like if we continue at the rate that we're at of undervaluing ourselves, discounting ourselves, having seasonal sales or whatnot, it's a slippery slope, and it's really hard to get back up once you've slid down that hill. So knowing what you bring to the table, how it's unique and different, the experience that you offer your clients, as well as your hard costs for operating a lucrative, successful, functioning business, needs to be put together for more of us.
And do you do a percentage-based pricing, flat fee, or hybrid? Like, how do you structure your pricing?
I do a flat rate, so I hit a base and then a percentage on top of that based on the needs. But I want to go in. I like transparency. I think everybody likes transparency. So on my website, it shows my base price so that when clients come to me, they understand at least where it's starting off. This kind of mysterious, oh, I don't show my pricing or this or that. Like, I want to keep it custom. Everything I do is custom as well. But I think everyone, especially now and Gen Z, they need to know starting to feel comfortable to even want to have the next step in a conversation with you for a consultation. So do them the service of letting them know where you start at least, and also saving yourself the time and headache of having conversations with people that have no idea how much wedding costs in your area, because how would they? They've never done it before. And then honestly, they're kind of wasting your time too, because they can't afford even your base because you haven't shared it.
Interesting. And did you ever go through the scary exercise of like revamping your pricing and kind of leaning into a higher price and being
Mhm.
scared? Like, can you just briefly tell me about like what
Yeah.
your experience and did it help your business? I'm assuming
Yeah.
yes, otherwise you wouldn't have given the advice that you did.
Well, I think many times I've put my website or my pricing on my website, I've taken it off. I've done kind of all that
Yeah.
checks and balances of seeing what works. I have found I get less inquiries now, but
Yeah.
the inquiries that I do get are more ideal clients and have better legs, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think people equate volume to
Yeah.
success, and you can
Yeah.
get 100 inquiries in a day, and they can all be horrible and
Right.
not a good fit for you, not aligned for many different reasons. When you niche down, when you are honest, when you are transparent, there will be less. But then it's up to you as a salesperson, essentially, to showcase your value. That your percentage of booking is going to be feel different because you're getting less inquiries. But if those inquiries are great inquiries and you nail it every single time, then it takes away the time of you going through hundreds of emails that don't pertain to you and are not going to hire you anyway.
I feel like there's a really powerful just sort of cohesion and through line that goes through this whole interview, Holly. And it all kind of stems from this notion of like being your true self,
Mm-hmm.
being vulnerable and
Mm-hmm.
harnessing the power of that, and not being as swayed by putting forth the fake version of you and listening too much to what other people are saying. And
Mm-hmm.
like, it's really just having that inner driven
Mm-hmm.
confidence to be yourself and to charge what you're worth. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
just like an interesting just cohesion to everything that we've been talking about here today.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do think too that not enough people think about when they take on clients, that is a whole kind of interesting experience of kind of figuring out if they're ideal and whatnot. But after the fact, I don't think there's enough vendors that kind of break it all down after an event happens and what worked for you, what didn't work for you. Should you have charged more? In the times that I felt like I charged enough, and then after a wedding, I was like, oh, I should have charged them another
Right.
$5,000 for the
Right.
amount that I have learned that it was
Right.
extra work. Those
Right.
should be learning lessons too that we incorporate into our kind of our client process and growth for ourselves, that we're always learning and growing what we need to do our very best work.
So you're saying like take a beat after an
Yeah.
event, catch your breath, and then
Mm-hmm.
look back
Dissect
at
it.
what can you learn? Dissect it. Yeah. What
I,
can you
I
learn
was
from
the very weird kid that like a goldfish would die
Yeah.
and I would bury it in the backyard in a box. And then I
Yeah.
had a notebook of I would dig it up a week later and look at
Yeah.
it. I would bury it again, dig it up a month later and look at it. That sounds really morbid and creepy, although I am a true crime person. But I think you learn a lot about kind of the aftermath of a situation when you have time away from it to kind of process and think about it and see what the outcome is. But in the moment, we're so caught up in doing all the things and it's busy and all of it, that afterwards we kind of just go, okay, that's done. On to the next. And we never kind of give ourselves time to decompress and understand what worked and what didn't work. Let's talk about it.
It's funny, you make me think of Leonardo da Vinci. Like there's a documentary that they did about him, but it's like, those people that are like, no, I'm fascinated. Like, how does
Yeah.
this human body work?
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
down to the most minute detail. Let's examine it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's that's great advice because I think
Yeah.
it's easy, especially as a wedding planner, business owner. You're just running 100 miles an hour and not necessarily reflecting or looking at, evaluating the things that are happening and seeing
Mm-hmm.
what you can learn from it. Holly, well, this hour has flown by. I want to just invite you before we wrap up here to just tell people how they can connect with you if they want to network with you, if they have questions or whatever. How can people reach out to you?
Oh my goodness. Well, on Instagram, I am anything but Gray Events. Gray is spelled with an A. Also on TikTok, you can find me there. I give a little bit more honest take on TikTok sometimes too. You can find me at WIPA meetings. If you're a WIPA member, I would love to connect with you if I haven't already. I'm in the local Southern California chapter, but I do get to travel all over the United States with WIPA. So that's a really fun, exciting thing. And I'm also going to be speaking about networking at Wedding MBA in Las Vegas in November. So if you are there, come find me. I'm big, I'm blonde, I'm kind of hard to miss.
I love it. Holly, I love it. What a treat interviewing you. Thank you for taking time to do this. And on behalf of our Timeline Genius community and all of our Wedding Industry Insider podcast listeners, yeah, thanks for just sharing your knowledge and insights. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you for what you're doing for Timelines too. God bless.